All right, so our meeting is officially starting. So I will start with Eat Local, and I will turn it to Bryn to share more.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. We, if you're unfamiliar with Eat Local is a committee. It's a collection of organizations that we work with to promote local food, which is a really important movement right now. You know, we can really like hone in with everything going on with tariffs to promote local food. That's kind of the PR spend that I'm putting on it. So at the beginning of the year, we chose Doc Piet as our cookbook of the year as a fun way to incorporate a local author, a really fun cookbook, and then, you know, some events throughout the year celebrating the partners that work within the committee. So we have an event at the Broadside on May 27th. The event's going to be from 5:30 to 8:30, and we're going to be doing a book signing and a cooking demo from Chef Nini Nguyen. We are also going to be doing DIY bookmarks with local pressed flowers from Sprout. Thanks, Jess and Mina, on that. And we have a few other elements that we are working out the details on, some scrum film screenings. And, you know, we're trying to get a local shrimper out to be able to work with Shrimp Aid, you know, who Chef Dana works with the Broadside. So we'll be trying to get, you know, direct shrimp sales connecting with Shrimp Aid on that. So more details to come, but please mark your calendars for May 27th. It's the day after Labor Day. If you haven't been to the Broadside yet, it's lovely. And they are also very great at working with nonprofits. I would highly recommend every interaction I've had with them. And the others, I know like they really work with nonprofits and are great. It'll be from 5:30 to 8:30.
Thank you so much. All right. Next, we have working group updates. We're going to start with food access.
Sorry, Sam. I was struggling to get my Zoom back up.
No worries. And I'm sorry, very quickly, Megan, it should be kid friendly, but I'll check in with yeah, Bryn will double check.
Yeah, so just a couple of quick updates from the FOG group. We're going to be meeting on the 21st, which is about 2 weeks from yesterday. And the focus on the meeting is going to be on disaster preparedness and response. So we're going to have somebody from the Public Health Emergencies Office here at City Hall to join us and hopefully help us work through maybe a role for the group in, you know, the city's disaster preparedness plan. I'm just trying to figure out how we can better support those endeavors whenever a disaster arises. And then I have also been, sorry, I'm some crosstalk here. I've also been working with Grace and Jess and Sam on a urban agriculture and food plan that I'm really excited to begin sharing more about in the coming weeks. And the last thing that I wanted to share is, or should I save the lunch and learn for later, or should I go ahead and mention it, Sam? Are you muted?
Sorry, you can mention it now.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a lunch and learn on the 29th of May. So that's going to be a Thursday. And I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the topic of farmers markets, really digging into some of the history, the role that they play in combating food insecurity, and then some of the challenges that local vendors have faced in trying to start markets, just based on some community input that I've received and that some of the group members have shared with us. So there's a lot going on in the food access group, and I hope that some of y'all will join us.
And I'll be sure to send out invitations to that lunch and learn pretty soon. It'll be included in our next newsletter. So no need to write it down now. All right. Next we have the seafood working group.
Hey, yes. Hey, everyone. Um, this is Fiona, one of the co-chairs. We have our next meeting next week on Wednesday at 10. It'll be virtual. Um, And we really are just focusing on tracking the various seafood related policies that are going through the legislature right now. And yeah, I'll kick it off to Rachel if she has anything to add. Oh, and I gotta say, Coastal Day at the Capitol, May 12th. We will be there. I will be there partially as CRCL, partially as the Seafood Working Group / Seafood Passport. Hope to see you all there. Let me know if you'll be there.
Yeah, hi, sorry. Let me know if anyone can't hear me. I'm on my phone. So, yeah, like Fiona said, we're pretty focused right now on watching a lot of the policy changes that are either going into effect or that are likely to go into effect through the rest of the year, both at a state and federal level. There's so much happening, from everything from the tariffs, which have pros and cons in regards to, imported seafood, but also everything else that could possibly impact the industry, from, the distribution and supply chain side to, materials for our fishermen on their boats and other things. So there's just a lot happening and everything changes about week to week. So big focus that we have right now is kind of looking at all that, and then also monitoring the current and then upcoming shrimp seasons to see how this season's going to go for our shrimpers, and what that full impact is. The brown shrimp season dates were officially announced. Those are available online. If anyone wants more details about what the shrimp dates are and you can't find them, feel free to reach out to Fiona and Bryn or myself, and we can give you more of a breakdown. Pretty much every Gulf states commission or council or advisory committee that could possibly meet this year is and has been doing so. So, like I said, we are everywhere and nowhere all at once, kind of. A big thing that we've been focusing on are the import label laws, both at the state and federal level. Louisiana is not the only state that is currently really focused on making sure that country of origin and labeling is very clear and transparency within the supply chain. It's actually been happening, and has been a targeted focus for a variety of different Gulf states, including Florida and Texas, as well as some of the northeastern seafood focused states as well. So that's really cool that it's a focus on the federal level still. The diversion project, I don't have any specific updates on. That's more of obviously Sam and the restore groups, but I do know that it was a new kind of angle to the diversion project, which was thought to be kind of waylaid, was brought to city council today. So hopefully if you attend our meeting next week, we will have more updates about that from Sam directly. And then, like Fiona said, Coastal Day at the Capitol is on Monday, the 12th, and members of our group will be there. So if you are interested in attending or would like to know a bit more about some of the policy that is likely to be discussed there, reach out to Bryn or Fiona or any of the other members of our working group, and we can try to fill you in.
Yeah, I do want to add, if you're copying our build tracker, you may see a lot of extra amendments in the seafood working group, in the seafood related legislation. There's kind of a bit of a holdup for bills that were written with the language that includes Gulf of Mexico, because now they are requiring, since it is US recognized, to include the language Gulf of America. So even very conservative party members we've seen have felt like it's holding up the process. some of them literally were like, can they do that? So if you see a lot of, if you're tracking the seafood bills, you will see a lot of amendment, and that's kind of what's going on.
All right.
But I do believe that the resolution is in council today. Let me double check on that. But I thought it was supposed to go to council today. Let me see.
We said in the chat that it is.
Yeah, it's on the council. Sorry, I was just saying it is on the council agenda for today. The meeting started at 10 and there's like all this big
I'm
board and
sorry.
I just don't think they've like actually heard the motion yet, but I think yeah, it's definitely
Oh, okay.
today.
Hey, I've dropped the bill tracker for y'all that was mentioned. We are tracking and Margie will speak a little bit more, or Devin will speak a little bit more about that process later, but I also just want to open the floor to any other working groups who have announcements.
Hi, everyone. Not a big announcement. I know we're actively working through a lot, and Eric, please jump in. But just wanted to call attention to the tours that the city is doing along with the business support, the what do you call it? The set aside program for the disadvantaged businesses. They've been doing a lot of tours at NOR facilities, et cetera, speaking to business contracts, which also include some within the food service. This started, I feel like everything's post Mardi Gras, but probably at the end of February. And so it may be a call to action to not, even though there's other things going on that may be limiting some of that support, they are still looking at that set aside at I think about 25%. So they have that open and they're doing just a tour to educate the public on. And I know they were on radio stations earlier this week, some city officials still speaking about it. And then I know Sam and Eric, you all will probably touch on some of the permitting and the city council. So I will yield the floor.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get a little deeper into it, but I think at the state level, the House Bill 150 dealing with cottage law is kind of going through the processes, which is exciting. And if you didn't watch get a chance to watch the video that I think it was linked in the May Day FPAC report with House Rep Coates and a farmer kind of talking through it. It's pretty interesting. I would recommend that. And we also, I'm going to drop it in the commercial kitchen and co-packing list. It's like almost ready to go live. Here, let me just drop it in there. This is just a file. I haven't linked it off the FPAC drive yet, but if you have any additions, if you've heard of any kitchens that might want to be listed here, or if you have format recommendations, it's a little dense for some of the kitchens, and so we're trying to figure out how to kind of best represent, like, do you need rates, do you need lists of equipment, or do you just want kind of basic information? So that's there. You can give feedback in my email, which is also there. And then I probably like the most exciting is the Helena Moreno's city permitting hearings. And we're gonna have a big push to get folks involved there. But I'm just gonna kind of do some of the key dates and I'll kick it to you, Sam. But the preliminary hearing comments are due May 19th to the 21st. And then the actual, the big hearing where we'd like to have as many people make comment as possible is May 27th at 1:30. And, we can kind of get things in there like permitting improvements, potential grace periods, the emerging business license, and everything else that we've been talking about for years. Thank you.
All right, Grace, do you want to jump in on the land use study?
Yeah, thanks for that update, Eric. I just wanted to offer a little just from what I'm hearing inside the city hall, since I think it's relevant around this land use barrier study, because it's the city planning commission that is charged because of the ordinance that Marino put forward to. It was confusing to me because the email that went out is very much saying it's focused on permitting and all the issues that people have with safety and permits, essentially, like you mentioned, Eric. But after talking with the people in City Planning Commission who are actually doing this work, they're like, this is actually getting framed incorrectly to the public. So I just wanted to like name that there, City Planning Commission does not oversee safety and permits or really like have the capacity or focus to overhaul that. It's like it definitely needs to be done, but they clarified that like really the focus of the study is much more on like zoning and land use issues that people have with like anything related to like the comprehensive zoning ordinance and land use issues, less so around permitting and licensing. And so that was surprising and frustrating to me because I was starting to write something about some considerations that growers have been having with permitting and licensing. So I just wanted to offer that. I'm happy to talk more offline about, and like if there are any specific questions, if y'all are prepping people with like comments related to that for the May 27th hearing, super down to set up a call. I just wanted to offer what I've heard from city planning.
I really appreciate that, Grace. I was also told, like it was hinted to me today a little bit about that. And so business development, we need to check in about this. But yeah, thank you so much. And then we might sidebar with you, Grace, to talk more about what would be most effective. But for those of you who are if you're more familiar with the process, please let us know. And feel free to, I can drop the link to the website. If you read the website and you're like, okay, I have a strong comment that I can share, please feel free to submit. And in the meantime, as we learn more information and get clarity on the process, we'll be sure to communicate that to y'all. We've sort of bled nicely into local updates. I'm actually going to go back on the slide and pass it off to Devin to talk about the Soil and Water Conservation District election that's coming up.
Hi everyone, Devin here. I'm with Louisiana Food Policy Council and Sprout. So there is a kind of last minute election that will be happening on June 14th from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. It is a very rare special election. It's not, it's kind of like a quasi-public election. And it is for a seat on the Crescent Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Supervisors. You may have not heard about the Conservation District. I will send out more information, or we will send out more information about the election, about the board itself, but I just wanted to like put this on folks' radar because it is like just getting planned now. And so it's like a pretty short turnaround. But just like some basic relevant details, the Soil and Water Conservation Districts are a kind of public feedback mechanism for the USDA. It is a body, the Board of Supervisors for each Soil and Water Conservation District, which there is a district that represents every parish and county in the country, is made up of private landowners and producers that get to have a say on how conservation practices are rolled out in their jurisdiction. So it is a pretty old body that exists, and it is a place that we are interested in people knowing more about. These elections almost never happen because typically the Board of Supervisor, if there is an open seat, someone will nominate themselves, it'll be uncontested, and then they will get that seat. But this is a rare, very extremely rare occasion where there is actually two people that were nominated, so there has to be a public election. Again, that will happen on June 14th, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Because this is so weird, we are thinking that there is likely to be very low turnout, and we would like that to be different. And this is an opportunity for people to learn more about the district and what it does and this particular type of election. Again, we'll follow up with more details. I'm sorry I don't have those right now. This is all emergent. I got, a call a couple of days ago that this was happening at all. So very, very new. I'll also put my email in the chat if anyone has any questions or wants to participate in any way.
Thanks, Devin. All right. Does anyone here have any more local updates? And by local, I mean anything within Orleans Parish or adjacent that you think the group should know about? All right, just gonna keep moving on. We will go on to state updates.
Woohoo! Hey everyone, some state updates. So legislative session is still moving. It goes until June 12th. A lot of things have been happening very quickly. Eric mentioned HB 150. I'll give because that is very timely, it just happened today. I'll give some updates on that. And actually Representative Coates who put that bill up was texting a little bit this morning about some of the amendments that were asked for in it, but it did go on the floor or did go into committee this morning at Health and Welfare. And so that's just been a bill that's of particular interest to many of the farmers and food businesses that we work with, as you guys have probably inferred. So anyone who wants to kind of think about how to give feedback or make changes to that bill, it wasn't received super well in committee this morning by committee members. It's a health and welfare committee, so as you can imagine, there are some food safety concerns about the bill. I think it's gotten into a lot better shape in terms of food safety. And there are still, I think, some pretty big questions. And we also know that the Louisiana Restaurant Association is very oppositional to it. So it's kind of just an interesting spot to watch right now. A lot of ways it could really affect so many of the small scale food producers that we all work with. And it really could affect a lot of the small farms that do value added goods. But the details that are currently sort of getting debated are not actually the ones that really help our people. So if anyone wants to jump in on thinking about how to make that bill better for the folks that the Food Policy Council, both in New Orleans and beyond, serve, that would be great. I'd love to hear from you. I'll put my email in the chat. We do have Representative Coates' ear on that, which is a nice thing to have when she's looking to make this bill acceptable and move smoothly. So yeah, we'd like to hold on to that. We did our first state of the session update call last night at 5:30. We're getting the model under control. We're trying to figure out how it works best. But what we're trying to create is a bill by bill food and farm update space for how bills are moving in legislative sessions so that we can actually kind of get into the text and details of those bills. And those calls are, yes, absolutely for you guys, people who work on food policy every day, but they're at 5:30 because they're actually meant to be engaging to farmers, fisher folks, small business owners in the process so they can keep up with what's happening in farm and food in the legislative session in a way that feels like they don't have to already know how to do that, because legislative session moves really quickly. So we're trying to create that as a very low barrier, low stakes environment to almost listen to the update call like a podcast. So I encourage you guys to join us. I think call number 1 went really well, and we'll keep building on the model. The bill tracker has been dropped a couple of times. It is a living document. And then we also really ask for you all to make sure that we have eyes in every space, and that if there's something that's affecting food and farm or food and small businesses, hunger and nutrition, that you let us know so that we can accurately represent it in that document. A couple of big picture updates. I want to see what Eric said in the chat. There was a similar effort for home cottage production, not necessarily cottage law in California. Yeah, that would be great. So just kind of a little bit of inside information on that bill. And we're seeing this a lot. I think it's always been a model, but it's something that's happening more and more. The Mahomet legislation is a good example of it too, is these kind of packages of bill text being shopped to amenable states. If the bill if the case for the bill exists and it worked somewhere else, then we see either lawyers, lobbyists, sort of groups of people approaching representatives in states where there might be amenity towards incorporating that bill as well. So we were approached by a group of lawyers from a nonprofit called Institute for Justice on this bill text that they proposed to Coates. I will say that I don't think that the bill text that they helped create is very clear. I would recommend that folks who read the Institute for Justice website, read it with a critical lens is what or read it with a read it as a critical thinker is what I will say. Because I don't think that everything there should be taken as face value. I think the food freedom movement has a lot of corners and edges to it, as well as many of you all may know, like, there's a lot to raw milk legislation. There's a lot to all of this deregulation in food. So it's a complex topic, and we don't want to whole cloth accept any of these narratives as objectively true. That is to say, the Institute for Justice has shopped this bill all around and has had it pass in a lot of places. California did some really cool grassroots and I think they're called, there's a model that they've used for creating actual hot food kitchens, like almost like pop-up restaurants in California. That's really interesting and not part of that Institute for Justice package. I talked about it briefly, so I'll bring it back up, which is like we've seen so many intersections in the state legislative session with this MAHA legislation idea, or Make America Healthy Again legislation. So the kind of two main ones were a McMath and Amiguez bill that both were sort of using this Make America Healthy Again list of foods that are considered ultra processed foods. Some of them are scientifically proven to be dangerous. Some of them are not scientifically proven to be dangerous. For instance, we know that Red 40 is not great for human health. There's some pretty good data to back that up. Seed oils are a little bit more complicated, and they require nuance, and people have their own individual opinions about those things. And we want to support your freedom to decide what to put into your own body. So we saw two bills that that brought up those ultra processed foods, but the McMath version, Senate Bill 14, at the end of it also extended those restrictions to SNAP and asked that the state submit an exemption to say that soda, candy couldn't be purchased with SNAP. For many of you, that might sound, yeah, sure, we do not want our kids, we do not want our families eating too much processed sugar, but we also recognize that it becomes a pretty slippery slope when we start limiting what people can do with the benefits that they've been given, especially when those benefits are being asked to be stretched so far to begin with. So exemptions in what people can spend their SNAP dollars on could be considered like a slippery slope. And so wanted to bring that up, but the bill was kind of getting hot when Jeff Landry did an executive order that the state will actually pursue that exemption regardless. So the state of Louisiana is now pursuing that exemption on soda and candy in the usage of SNAP, and you should just keep an eye on how we're working on food freedom on one side of the spectrum, make raw milk allowable and make, there be no limitations on food. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we're really willing to limit some of those processed foods. That brings us into sort of another topic, which is all of the programs that have been cut in this state that were food and farm programs that attacked the nexus of food availability with farmer support. So those are LFPA, which was being administered, through LDAF and then through Feeding Louisiana. That's LFS, which was also being administered through LDAF. When I say LDAF, I mean Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry. And those were those purchasing programs that you've probably seen me send you a bunch of emails about at this point that allowed those institutions to purchase local products at basically market rate. We call them broadly farm to institution programs. We're seeing a lot of legislative session talk about those programs. So memorializations of those programs, or essentially like when our state reps are writing bills that sort of call on the federal government to reinstate those programs, that's better than nothing, but we would like to see the state have some teeth behind that and actually try to send some money and some assistance to those former programs so that we can get some semblance of them active again. Because even though there are always things to improve on, what we know is that those programs were supporting farmers and hungry families simultaneously, as well as school children. And that's not even, taking that away is not even the stated belief of taking away local food access is not even the stated belief of like many of our representatives, even the most conservative ones. So we'd like to get some movement on getting those programs either refunded, reinstated, or partially funded. And you'll see a lot of bills about that. And then the other one, the other thing to watch is that there is an introduction of trying to move SNAP benefits from the Department of Child and Family Services into workforce development. We see that as another potential or possible like attack on those benefits and their accessibility, because moving them to workforce makes them a benefit that is kind of tied to labor instead of part of a broader social safety net. And then the other thing to mention is the bills that we are seeing that, and maybe you all talked about it at the beginning. I was a minute or two late to the meeting, but the bills that we're seeing that have to do with immigration, and those are specifically like it's 307 and 100, I believe. Somebody in here will know if I'm right off the top of my head. I think it's House Bill 307 and 100. And what those do is they require reporting and data to be given to state departments on folks accessing benefits or services that are that are essentially like, sorry, let me slow down. HB 307 and 100 require a reporting of folks who are not citizens when they are pursuing public benefits. What that would mean for food is that people pursuing SNAP benefits, if they were not citizens, would be reported. There is one where the data is aggregate, so each department in 100 needs to report how many citizens are non-citizens are accessing those benefits. In 307, it actually, in my interpretation of it, is that the individual who is being asked for the benefit, like potentially all the way down to like a school lunch lady being asked for free lunch, would need to report a non-citizen pursuing a public benefit. So these bills are definitely an attack on some of the most marginalized Louisianans, and they weaponize food and a social safety net that is already far too thin. Thank you, Luke, for dropping that. And I can drop some text afterwards. Our partners at Invest Louisiana wrote up some stuff on this bill for us so that we could share that around. And we just see those as a further tightening of the ropes on folks who are living on the margins. So those are kind of the big session updates right now, but to get into the text of bills, join us for those state of the session calls. Any other?
Thank you so much. Just a wealth of information. I don't know how you hold it all in your head. All right. And then we have a lobby day, y'all, on May 22nd, Farmers First at the Louisiana State Capitol. Margie, do you have any other things to add to this?
I don't have a ton, but I'll just frame it as the subtext here is when I say we want the legislature to have some teeth, what we're trying to do is actually get the state legislature to dedicate some money to our farmers and to farm to institution programs, but specifically to that on-farm production. And so that is what we will be there rallying around, but we invite you to bring all of the things that are important to you in farm and food. So specifically, that can be hunger, but it should be hunger, but it's hunger through the lens of like how we support our producers here in the state. So yeah, we're excited to have y'all out, and we're gonna have cute merch, which is the thing I'm most excited about.
Love swag here, or at least I do. Anyone have any updates on the fluoridation bill that was proposed? Okay, Christy, we can try and loop back if we hear something.
Yeah, I
but
just pulled it up and all I see is that it has been referred to the Committee on Health and Welfare, but I don't see any more
was
recent
thinking.
updates.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Sorry. I did want to say too, Luke, you just said it had been referred to health and welfare. So I lost track of time at the beginning of this meeting. That's why I was a second late, because I was watching health and welfare because of House Bill 150 coming up. And I have to say, if anyone wants to just have like a wild background sound on how the Health and Welfare Committee is very interesting to have instead of a podcast. There was a debate yesterday about vaccines and vaccine freedom, and then today was about like paid leave for organ donors, and it gets weird, guys. So anyway, that's my recommendation for a podcast for the week, is just listen to the Health Committee of the Louisiana State Legislature. In terms of federal updates, we went on Hill visits this past week, and I am happy to report that most of them were awesome, and we brought with us what we know to be the needs of all of the folks in this group. You know, we advocated for all of these programs that are so important to our hungry Louisianans, to farmers. So we talked extensively about the LFPA. We talked extensively about regional food business centers, about protecting SNAP generally. So it's a coalition of folks who come from the sort of hunger policy side, farmers markets folks, and farmers. And we met with almost every member of the Louisiana delegation, and I would say had some really good and interesting conversations with federal staffers and with members of Congress themselves. And we're, you know, I think I'm heartened by how much it seems that on the federal level, at least staffers and a lot of members of Congress seem to understand that these cuts to programs that are happening are just actually harmful and they're not in any way beneficial. I understand that that's cold comfort because we don't, I'm going to throw it to Devin to talk about what could be done in a farm bill. It's cold comfort when like the highest office in the land is the one that's cutting them, and our members of Congress seem fairly, I'll use the expression toothless again to like get them back. But I am at least heartened to see that there seems to be a universal understanding that a lot of these programs were very necessary to our communities. So, yeah, we talked extensively about those farm to institution programs and about protecting SNAP and DSNAP, and Bryn really killed it on some good seafood updates. And yeah, so I will drop the RAFI marker bill tracking website in the chat. One of the things that we have been finding is that it's hard to keep up with marker bills and state legislative session at the same time. RAFI's marker bill tracking for the farm bill is very comprehensive. And so if you end up in a space where you are speaking to a member of Congress about the farm bill and what you might want to see in it, it is a encyclopedia of the potential marker bills that could support whatever it is that you are looking to get codified in the farm bill. And I'll throw it to Devin for a farm bill update.
Just also want to like double endorse the RAFI marker bill tracker. Those folks, you can also reach out to myself or Margie or the RAFI policy staff. I mean, I didn't run this by them, but I'm gonna volunteer them to field if you have like questions about how to marry your issues with particular marker bills that might be the best fit. Happy to work through that with folks. Yeah, so as far as the farm bill, this is an evergreen topic because it is a piece of legislation that so intensively structures our food and farm system. So that's why we're continuing to hear about it. That's like extra true right now because we are still trying to reauthorize the farm bill from the 2018 one. So there was 2 continuing resolutions. We are currently under the second full year continuing resolution that will expire on September 30th of 2025. The farm bill is, so what that means is that we are operating off of farm bill policy that was created in 2018, which you might recall is pre-pandemic, like a very different food world. The current possibility for a farm bill before this current continuing resolution runs out remains very low, and recent kind of congressional action has made that increasingly or maintains that kind of like unlikelihood and also exacerbates it. So the big kind of like current congressional tension, or the current kind of like congressional dominoes as it pertains to getting a farm bill passed, is budget reconciliation. So budget reconciliation is big budget process that kind of puts all of the cards on the table for how Congress decides what to do with money. And if Congress makes big cuts, as are proposed, to agricultural spending, that means that there is a significantly smaller pie of money for Congress to negotiate around within the Farm Bill. So there was already or as a reminder, the Farm Bill requires a supermajority. So you have to have 60 senators that sign off on a Farm Bill in order for it to pass. In order for it to get passed, period. There is not a party line majority, so it has to be bipartisan, which means that there have to be a ton of negotiations in order to get a farm bill through. Those negotiations really can only happen if there is money to negotiate with. If they're arguing about, or if they thought that they were going to be arguing about, metaphorically, $1,000 and now they're arguing about $200, those arguments become like exceptionally unlikely to be able to reach some kind of resolution that would, again, also pass that supermajority threshold that the required bipartisanship. So things are not looking good in terms of a way forward for a farm bill. Some potential options that have been floated are kind of breaking it into a couple of like separate bills. Breaking it into a couple of separate bills, kind of pushing the buck down the line. Those are options that aren't necessarily advantageous to the folks that we work with, thinking particularly of small scale diversified producers, or just producers kind of generally. The thing that we are pushing for at Sprout, and like generally our allied national advocates are pushing for, is a full farm bill. So we want to see this happen all at once. We do not want to see it get parsed out, and we need to see it happen now because we are operating off of such out-of-date policy. There is also a really fun and horrifying but fun clause that if the farm bill does expire and they do not issue a continuing resolution, which I don't think that they would let happen, but that would revert all those policies back to the original act that was passed in, I think it was 1938 is the one that, or it's either 33 or 38 that it would revert to, which would be catastrophic, of course. So Farm Bill is not looking good. There are marker bills, or like in terms of kind of moving this from the big context into what folks in this space can do. One, push for a farm bill that it is a full farm bill. You do not want to see it be piecemeal. We want to see programs funded. We do not want to see the budget reconciliation an important kind of like, if you're pushing for a farm bill, you need to be pushing for a budget reconciliation process that preserves funding for key programs and key agricultural funding. And you can kind of, I think it's fair to, like, obviously more detail is better, but you can be just that vague and say, I want to see agriculture fully funded during budget reconciliation, and the proposed cuts are egregious. But moving into like more specific farm bill things, there are marker bills that are coming up. These are, again, as a reminder, a marker bill is not a bill that is intended to pass into law on its own. It is a bill that marks a particular idea, a proposed policy that will eventually, hopefully, make it into the farm bill. So there is some good movement or creative thinking around some congressional members trying to take current federal funding cuts and the harms that those have caused, turn them into farm bills so that that can't happen again, and then infuse them into the farm bill. So keep an eye out for some of those. Those are also being tracked in Rafi's marker bill tracker. Margie, if you can put the name of, I think it's like 2 kind of key ones, maybe 1, maybe 2, that are relevant in the chat, that would be great. But the marker bills, these marker bills hold places for ideas so that if/when we get to a point where there is a real viable, or there's like a political climate and context and will to do a new farm bill, and that might happen very quickly or it might happen very slowly. It just like everything is kind of touch and go right now. We want to be ready with these marker bills already in place so that we can Eat Local Foods Act. Thank you. So that we can kind of activate very quickly, get in touch with our members of Congress and say, I know it's moving right now. These are the marker bills that have already been introduced that matter to us. So it's not necessarily that we need to go full force on marker bills right now in terms of public rallying cries around support, but on the back end, some like inside baseball, it is great to get, it is great to get, sorry, Sam sent me a time message. I'm wrapping up right now. It is great to get marker bills on the docket and get Congress interested and keep reminding them that a farm bill matters. So like play the inside baseball, write the text with them. That's what this moment needs. Cool, I'm done.
All right, thank you so much, Devin. Sorry, y'all, my microphone got lost. Once again, just a wealth of knowledge. Don't know how you hold it all. This is just another reminder that the Louisiana Federal Changes Survey is still open. If you or someone you know should be filling this out, please do so. The QR code will take you directly to the survey. If you don't want to communicate impacts in writing, feel free to reach out to Devin. If you have any questions, please reach out to Marquis. And now this is our last FPAC meeting for this sort of round for our season. That is not to say that we do not still have a lot. You will continue to see us in different capacities. Margie will be holding calls, as she mentioned, about state of the session through session. We have a few events, as we had mentioned, coming up. But as far as general meetings, we will resume again in September. And with that, with the few minutes that I think 2 minutes that we have left, if you have events or things that you would like to share, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will follow up via email to everyone, just providing a wrap up. Luke, thank you for dropping that event. With the Youth and Family Wellness Day on May 31st, check that out. And then does anyone have anything verbally or would like to just drop it in the chat for us to keep our eye out on?
A few of us in this meeting, Rachel and Fiona included, will be participating in a panel alongside some shrimpers and Chef Dana at State of the Coast conference on the 20th, I believe. And then we have an Eat Local meeting on the 18th, whatever that Monday is, I think.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Well, as always, your presence is a present. It is a gift, and I appreciate y'all for showing up. I will stay behind in case anyone has any questions or has anything they want to share, but until then, see you next time.
Bye. Thanks, y'all.